I am creating a brand new MLB franchise, and today we're starting the long journey of rebuilding the Portland Pickles and eventually winning them a World Series. Despite being one of the largest cities on the West Coast, Portland is a sad spot for pro sports, notably lacking an NFL and MLB team. Their NBA team, the Trailblazers, are also disgustingly bad, leaving fans starving for a winner, but that is all about to change. After years of losing, bad contracts, and crashing attendance, the Los Angeles Angels went bankrupt and MLB dissolved their franchise. To replace them, they created a new team in Portland and bought the name of a local summer league team, the Portland Pickles. That's right, this is a real baseball team, and our mascot Dylan Pickle will definitely become a fan favorite, but that is the only good thing we have going for us because this is a brand new expansion roster. Our best player is only 69 overall, and everyone on the squad has D potential, which makes sense because our entire team is full of minor league rejects from across the league. The Pickles even make the White Sox look good as we're facing them on opening day, and I won't play many games in this first season, but I want to see what we have, and no way we're starting out with a home run. That is a no-doubter from none other than 59 overall Matt Rudick, and before I get people asking me, I am playing the entire series on Legend. We just got extremely lucky, but now Austin Shenton blasts one into right field, so I'm starting to wonder if we have some hidden gems. We have loaded bases, but there's a swing and miss, so after all that, it is only 1-0. Our best pitcher is 67 overall Jansen Junk, who just like many guys on the team, doesn't do anything well, and early on in his debut, he is already making me nervous. The bases are loaded. He is not hitting the plate as there's an RBI walk, so it is once again a tie game, and here is a sac fly. There are 2 outs, and we cannot afford any more damage. This is crushed into deep center field. Our defender giving chase, he cannot get it. Our lead was very short-lived as it's clear the White Sox are the better team, but our offense deserves a ton of credit for continuing to fight as we have 2 aboard and score another run. Even though it's the White Sox, we put up 5 runs, which is very impressive, and without a doubt, our player of the game was Matt Rudick, who had 3 hits, 3 RBIs, and 2 home runs. That was a great performance, but unfortunately we got swept, and if we can't beat Chicago, I don't know when we're getting our first win. However, later in the week, we're in extras against the Guardians, and this could be our chance. Winning our first game would be a major milestone, but we come up short here, so we start the season 0-8, and now it's time for scouting. Lucky for us, the Angels left behind the number 2 overall pick, so we cannot mess this up, and just like with all of my rebuilds, I would prefer to take a position player with my first selection, although the number 1 player on the board, Anderson Saldana, might be ridiculously good. If he stays at number 1 after scouting, he might just be the guy, but I'm also interested in Vern Bradley, whose potential is really good, and he's coming in with elite contact. We're starting things off scouting him and starting pitchers, but as far as our needs go, it's a tough question because we're terrible at pretty much every area. Because we're so bad, I would prefer to draft players that are a little bit closer to the majors so they can come up and help us out, because any long-term projects may never develop, and if they do, it will not be for a very long time. Next week, I am definitely scouting this first baseman, Geraldo Lucero, who would be a great option in the second round because his potential and contact ratings are already very good. We're still looking for our first win in team history, which might not come for a while, so until that comes, I'm going to keep scouting players as Vern Bradley looks very good. Unfortunately for us though, the Angels don't get any extra draft picks, so we're stuck with the regular 6, and because of that, if Lucero's any good, there's no way he's falling, so we'd have to take him at number 2. We are simming another week, hoping for our first victory of the season, and finally here's a chance. Portland's in another extra innings game, this time against the Rangers, and this is hit well into center field. Does it have the distance? I do not think so. That would have been incredibly clutch, but we still advanced the runner, and now Walton drops this in for an RBI single. That was the most Portland Pickles way we could have possibly scored that run, so we're 3 outs away from our first win in team history. That's a good start. Every time I throw, I am scared to death, but there's a strikeout, so now we just need 1 more for the victory. Marcus Semien straight to second base, the throw to first is accurate, and the Portland Pickles have finally won a game. It nearly took us a month to get here, but we finally did, and that is all that matters, as the first number in our record no longer says 0. After scouting Lucero and finishing his profile, he's officially a player I'd really like to take, but I'm also interested in Hendrik Samuel. He's an older first baseman near the top of the draft who's coming in with a very good floor, so dare I say Randy Trout. And just for fun, if you understand that reference, drop a like on the video, but if you don't, also drop a like on the video, and then go check out last year's Pickles video. As expected, this offense is so bad to start the year as I'm not really seeing anyone worth keeping around, because our best player right now is Cade Marlowe, who's hitting .246 and he's regressing. To my surprise though, checking out the rotation, Kyle Verbitsky's playing way above his rating, and while that's encouraging, it doesn't take much scrolling to find some really nasty numbers. Unfortunately, after another week of scouting, I'm not interested in Hendrik Samuel at all, as he goes down to rank number 16, so that is unfortunate, but on the bright side, we are almost done scouting in international pitchers, and there are some good prospects I'm certainly interested in. I am still looking for options for our first selection, and how about Robert Warner, as center fielders are pretty hard to come by, and he's a very fun player. It has been 2 weeks since our first win of the season, but we just tie up this extra inning game against the Tigers, so this could be our chance to get number 2, but we're unlucky. We can not score, and now the Tigers score 3 runs, so the Pickles take another loss, and if you thought the Rockies were bad in real life, this is a whole different level. However, our reparations for this is that Robert Warner is the 3rd best player in the entire draft, and with this combination of power and speed, he might have just become my favorite player. Obviously, we still need to scout this starting pitcher because he looks insane, but Warner and Vern Bradley would both be great options at number 2. This is a very good outfield class, so I'm going to scout another player starting with Jack Reyes, as I'm starting to look for new options for our pick at number 43. In the middle of May, our record is 2-40, but now we're tied in extras against the Marlins. They are also really bad, so this could be our chance to finally win another game, as Cook drives this into right field, and it's a walk-off sacrifice fly. We don't have much to celebrate, so I will take whatever I can get, as our record is a brutal 3-50, and our numbers on the year definitely reflect that, as our team leader in RBIs, Jesus Bastida, has a 472 OPS. Then after that, the rest of our numbers do not get much better, so it's very fitting that our team batting average is under 200, and we're in dead last for pretty much everything else. I am not exaggerating when I say this rebuild might take over 10 years, especially if we can't nail this first draft, but so far I'm finding some pretty good players. After scouting all the good outfielders, we are moving on to the infield, now focusing on second baseman Eloy Malanca, and at 19 years old, he might be a good project. However, after another week of scouting, I see that our discovery guys have been hard at work, and we found the number 3 player in the class, Todd Riley. He is from the Pacific Northwest, and he could very well be an amazing player, and along with him, we found 2 more position guys I'm very interested in. You are wasting your team's potential if you do not discover players in MLB The Show, but unfortunately, after skipping a week, Todd Riley is just not very good. That is so unfortunate. He might still be a project later in the draft, but certainly not a top 10 guy. However, our discovery scouts found a left fielder who absolutely could be. From my experience, discovery guys almost never go in the first round, so just imagine if we got Esposito along with another player like Vern Bradley or Robert Warner. And even once we pick both of them, there should still be plenty of pitching options available in round 3 like Delgan. I am very excited because this draft could be the one positive in a terrible year, but right now things aren't looking that bad against the Nats as we tie it up, and Kyle Verbitsky's reminding us that he's our best starter. This could be our chance as Davis walks, so the bases are loaded for Cade Marlowe, but it will not drop. A team that's as bad as us cannot afford missed opportunities because Washington pulled back in front and won the game. That is one of the closest games we've seen from this team in a while, so it's unfortunate we lost, although we do beat Atlanta 3-2. That means we now have 6 wins on the year, but now it's time for the moment of truth as we're checking out the left fielder we scouted last week, and we officially have a new number 1 player in the draft. Alberto Esposito is about as sure of a thing as you can get in the draft, and he's exactly what we're looking for with a good potential and a good overall. That is an awesome poll with the draft only 1 week away, so why not just jump right into it as Robert Warner's the number 1 player on the board. I think the best plan of action is to take him with our first round pick because I don't think we're finding a center fielder even close to him for the rest of the video. His combination of speed and power is way too much to pass on, and even though the other guy I was considering, Vern Bradley, has better contact and plate skills, that is the plan for the first pick, but then in round 2, we are praying that Alberto Esposito does not get taken in the first round because drafting the first and second best players on our draft board would be an amazing start for this franchise. At least at the top of the board, this is one of the best draft classes I have ever seen, as it feels like we have so many options for our first 2 selections, but things get a little bit weirder after that. While the outfield class is very good, the infielders are a different story, so there's a chance we may not take one for the entire draft. These are the best players I could find, and they do not project as anything more than projects, so the back end of the draft might be very full of discovery pitchers, which honestly is okay with me as we start off the draft, and the first selection is Anderson Saldana. I don't like to take pitchers in the first round since you can get them later in the draft, but I think Saldana is at least going to be a solid player. But of course, my target since the beginning is athletic center fielder Robert Warner, and I truly believe that this pick could be the beginning of greatness. We are going to pull the trigger, selecting the first player of the Portland Pickles franchise in MLB 25. It is the start of a new era as Vern Bradley goes at number 3 to Seattle, but he is not even my favorite left fielder on the board. Alberto Esposito needs to fall. This year I have not seen a discovery player get taken in round 1, but I feel like it could happen, so I'm holding my breath as we simulate forward, and let's go, he's still available. Without any hesitation, we are pulling the trigger, getting our first and second best players, and our outfield is already so good. That is incredible, but at the beginning of the round, one of my favorite discovery guys went off the board, so in round 3 it might be a good idea to take Delgan, who is number 6 on the board. My goal in this draft is to take at least 2 starting pitchers, as there are so many good ones, but simming to round 3, unfortunately Gan is gone. He went at number 65. That puts me in a bit of a pickle, pun intended, but Dennis Thompson is the next best player on my board and has a good walks per 9, so I definitely want to take him before we miss out. That leaves me with 3 pitching options for the rest of the draft, which is more than ideal, or at least I thought, as I sim forward, and there's only one left, and that is Marc Portillo. I just took a pitcher, but Portillo is the last guy on my board, so I feel like I need to pull the trigger to make sure I get a good player, and that was probably the right decision, because in round 5, there are just 2 players remaining on the board, because like I said, this draft class was really not that great at the bottom. I am very interested in both players, but we have not drafted an infielder yet, and Marc Wetzel looks like an amazing hitter, so why not take a chance? At the very least, he is a high floor player that we can keep in our system, and now I'm hoping I get Bill Woodson to close things out, but just in case he's gone, I am filling out the rest of my board. He is the number 58 player on our board and has great strikeouts per 9, so I'm hoping he lasts, simming ahead, and he is still there. Bill Woodson, welcome to the Pickles, and that concludes an amazing draft. You cannot ask for much more than that for a team that's won 9 games at the break, and with the way our current roster looks, do not be surprised if several of those players get called up as early as next year. If you remember, Matt Rudick hit 2 home runs and a double on opening day, so I really thought there was a chance for him to at least earn a spot on the roster next year, but as you can see, that has not been the case, as his negative 3.1 WAR is the worst on the team. This is embarrassing, so I'm just trying to sign my draft picks and move along, and despite how bad we are, it did not take long for the rest of the players to join him. Just ignore the team's 10-100 record, because the future is now, as we can finally view our draft picks at the start of August. By the way, do not put any value into these player names just yet, because after the season, I'm changing every single one to names submitted by my channel members. I think we cooked, but I'm still so terrified, as we're just gonna jump right in and let's go! Robert Warner is 90 potential with 73 overall right out the gate, and in case you guys were wondering, that is better than Randy Trout in every single way. He is gonna be electric with pretty good power in the low 50s, but the main stat I'm looking at is that 97 speed rating, and I don't think I had a single player like this in the Pickles series last year. I would be satisfied if he was the only selection of the draft, but of course in the second round, we outdid ourselves, taking the number 2 player on my board, and his overall is even better at 74. On day 1, he'll already be the best lefty masher on the team, but the contact versus righties does need work, but I don't have any room to complain as he's super well rounded. After that, I got a little bit nervous when 2 of my favorite discovery guys went, but it seems it worked out pretty well for us as we were led to our highest potential player on the board. Walks per 9 is the most important simulation stat in the game, and Dennis Tompkins is very good, but on top of that, he is 60 overall at 18 years old with 94 potential. I am saying it right now, this might be the best MLB The Show draft I have ever had in my life, as we started off with an electric center fielder and then took 5 discovery players in a row. Then our second pitcher, Marc Portillo, is also very good, coming in with a very similar potential and overall rating, so this draft class just keeps getting better. But then in round 5, it seems like we missed with a 79 potential 23-year-old first baseman. However, he is 68 overall. Not every player has to be a 90 or even 80 potential to make an impact, as this first baseman may have been a 5th round selection, but he is already the best hitter on the Portland Pickles. Pun intended, but mark my words, I think this guy's gonna have a great career and prove his doubters wrong. Before we ended things off with Bill Woodson, who's a 90 potential 66 overall closer. What an amazing draft. This rebuild starts off with a bang as long as you don't look at our record, as we're simulating to the end of the season because there's nothing left to do. If we don't have the first overall pick, I'm gonna be so angry because we just finished 13-149, which was only 87 games out of first place. In their first season of existence, the Pickles were the worst team in baseball in pretty much every category imaginable, and I'm convinced our roster would not have even done well in the minor leagues, so I'm fully prepared to tear this team to the ground and start from scratch. For the second time in 3 years, the Rangers are World Series champs, as Corey Seager won the MVP, and I have not even talked about our division yet, but these 4 teams are going to make it so much more difficult to win in this franchise, especially Seattle, who signed Mike Trout after the Angels got dissolved, and as a Mariners fan, I would absolutely love that. Entering the offseason, 4 of our staff members decided to leave, and I cannot blame them, and at this point, we may as well just start from scratch, firing the remaining 2 guys. Now it's time to say goodbye to most of our roster, and after several minutes, I have trimmed the Pickles down from 97 players to just 32. That means we need to fill the roster in free agency, but unfortunately, our owner is not willing to spend a lot of money, and on top of that, we just lost over 140 games, so why would Vlad Vlad Jr. and Kyle Tucker come to Portland. At least in this first year of free agency, all the contracts we're giving out are basically veteran minimums, with our biggest addition in Wave 1 being 34-year-old Travis Jankowski. We also added some other veterans like Tyler Kinley and Ben Gamel, but nothing special, at least in the first couple waves of free agency, but now that it's later on, I think we can start offering some contracts. These are the biggest free agents I'm going after this year, which definitely does not say much, but at the very least, we're going to upgrade at several key starting positions, with my favorite one being MJ Melendez, who I would really like to get. However, nothing we do this offseason is as important as the lottery, as we have a 16.5% chance to get the #1 pick, and I don't want to get screwed over. We dropped down one spot. That's not bad. We made good use of the #2 pick in last year's draft, so I'm confident we can do it again, but now it's time for the Rule 5, where we're taking Chris Flexen to start off, and most of the time I don't find a lot of value here, but given the state of our team, we may not be done. In the end, we selected 7 players, including Chris Flexen in round 1, but this could be the highlight of the offseason. MJ Melendez is a pickle. Even after our free agency moves, our rookie outfielders are still the best 2 players on the team, which is so fun, but I also don't want to rush them up to the show, so they are starting in Double-A, along with the rest of our rookies, including this undrafted catcher that I found who could be a fun project. Last year, none of our players had above D potential, but now going into season 2, we have 10 guys above B, so it's fair to say that our MLB roster is in much better condition than this time last year, and I'm excited to actually play some games. We also finally have a farm system worth tracking, as 5 of our prospects are debuting in the top 100, with the exception of Marc Wetzel, who's still a really good player. Comparing this lineup to season 1, I'm actually really excited to see what this team can do, as it seems pretty well balanced, and our pitching staff is also entirely new. If I could put money on anyone in the league right now, it would be any team facing the White Sox, but I have a big problem. I live in Washington State, where many forms of online sports trading are not legal, but thankfully I found a solution for that with Kalshi.com. They're today's sponsor and the only place you can trade on MLB in all 50 states, along with other real-world events, whether it's sports, an election, or even the price of Bitcoin. You can trade on pretty much anything, but using baseball as an example, capitalizing on the White Sox downfall is usually a good way to make some extra cash. Today they're playing the Cubs, who lead the NL Central, and they have about a 68% chance to lose, so $100 would net me a quick profit, as you're basically buying trades for 68 cents each, and if you win, they turn into a whole dollar. Kalshi has over 1 million users in all 50 states, and have facilitated over $1 billion in trades, and they're your best option for MLB. Put your money where your mouth is and sign up using the link in my description. The first 500 traders that trade 100 contracts will receive a $10 credit. By the way, you might have noticed my super cool Pickles hat, and this was actually given to me by the team, as I reached out to them a couple months ago, and they were nice enough to give me this, along with free tickets for my family to go see one of their games. They're an awesome franchise, and their merch store is really cool, so if you're interested in repping some Pickles merch, go to their merch store, which I have linked in the description. It is the first inning of the season, and we have already scored a run, looking for more, as the bases are loaded with 1 away, but there's a pop-up, so unfortunately, we strand 2 runs, but there's another RBI. This is a new lineup, which is very exciting, as some long-term contributors could emerge, because our roster is full of reject veterans hungry for a second chance. The player I'm most excited about in year 2 is MJ Melendez, who still has a lot of upside, but I also need to give a lot of credit to Cal Quantrill, who's having a good game on the mound, but Jacob Wilson's one of the best hitters in baseball and finds a way to score a run. That ties the game after a great start from the Pickles, and they hit another RBI to the same spot, so the Athletics take the lead, and the game would only get worse. That is an early reality check for this Pickles team, which still has a long way to go, as 2 runs on 8 hits simply will not cut it. Our first 2 series are a good chance to gain confidence, as they're both winnable, and we split the Athletics series, so we're looking to continue to build momentum against the Cardinals, but we're down by 1. It all comes down to the 9th inning, as Mason Wynn makes a great play at shortstop. The throw comes not in time. Our new shortstop had just enough speed to leg that out, and after a walk, the tying and the winning runs are on base for Jankowski, who bloofs this into right field. Will it get down? It does. The game is tied. The Pickles have rallied back and can now walk it off, although that is not deep enough, so we do not secure the sacrifice fly, but on the next at bat, Jonathan Arando finishes the job. That is a signature win for the Pickles to win their first series of the year, as I can already tell this team's having a lot more fun than last year's. However, they're still struggling to score runs despite getting on base quite a bit, but I can't complain considering they are 4-2. I know it's way too early to look at the stats, but after the season we had last year, I feel like we deserve the satisfaction, as the guy who walked it off, Jonathan Aranda, is playing very well with a 1000 OPS, and as a righty masher who plays good defense, I'm interested if he can stick on the roster long term. However, now we're taking on Arizona, and they are very good, so a series loss crashes us back down to earth, so I think it's time to look at the draft draft class. With the number 2 selection, I am looking to take another blue chip caliber player, and currently starting pitcher Bartolo Cordova is the number 1 player. However, you can always find pitchers later in the draft, so I really want to prioritize position players. Although I might not want to select another outfielder, let's take a look at Tom Bake. We did draft a first baseman last year, but I feel like there's always room for another good hitter, especially a switch hitter like Bake who hits for good contact. Now we're facing the Dodgers, and our season is falling apart as expected, but the Miami Marlins are a much better matchup as we're down 1. That means we're going to need another 9th inning rally, and here's one of our best hitters, MJ Melendez, but that first baseman's cracked. Of all people, that is Josh Bell playing Gold Glove defense, and now our last chance is Jonathan Aranda. He's been great in real life, but in this game, he is only 64 overall as he flies out to center and the Marlins win. We only scored 2 runs on 10 hits, so our offense continues to be a problem, and now game 2 is also very close, but they beat us again. That sends our record down to 5-10 to start the year, but at least on the bright side, Tom Bake looks like a good player that I would consider drafting. That is a good start, but I still want to find more players in the first round just to see if there's someone better like Pablo Iglesias. This contact is great, especially for a catcher, so I'm throwing him on the board. Getting swept by the Marlins is the most humbling possible thing, but our bad luck continues as Iglesias is not a good player. After that, I think the only other player I would be interested in scouting is third baseman David Wong, who's a late first round projection, but as you can see, the offense looks pretty well balanced, which I like. It has been a rough season 2 for the Pickles, but they are looking for a series win against Cincinnati, and here's a home run, so they're looking to rally in the top of the 8th as Gray makes good contact. It's being run down and caught. For a split second, I thought that would drop, but that is the least of our worries because our bullpen didn't give us a chance to win this one. However, even though they're in last place, there is a bright spot for the Pickles as they only need 4 wins for their best season ever. Jokes aside, I am liking what I'm seeing from some of our new players like Tristan Gray and Jonathan Aranda, but it's also so funny seeing Ben Gamel on the team as he was a member of the season 1 Pickles team from MLB 24. Our offense is playing well, along with 3 out of 6 of our starting pitchers, which is a huge deal, as guys like Quinn Priester and Chris Flexen were really just signed to fill roster spots. It has been an encouraging season so far, but of course this year is all about the development of our top prospects, and I just realized that I forgot to rename them, so I'm going to do that now. First and foremost, a new legend is born as our first round pick Robert Warner will now be called Tommy Pickle, and before you tell me that's not a realistic last name, that was the name of the drummer in my college punk rock band, so I don't want to hear it. As you guys know, in all of my rebuilds, I rename my prospects after my channel members, and here are the changes for season 1, but I've also provided all of them in the description as well. Season 2 of the Pickles continues as we're trying to beat Atlanta, as we currently have a 1-0 lead in the 7th inning. Our bullpen's pretty shaky, so it would be great to score an insurance run, and right on cue, Tomas Nido goes deep. It is not a stretch to say that the 31-year-old catcher has been our best player this season, with 7 home runs and a .284 average. Reclamation projects like him are so important to this rebuild regardless of whether he sticks around long term, because there's always the option to trade him for more prospects for the future. Unfortunately, we cannot score another run, so it all comes down to the 9th, where they're making me very nervous, and Jared Kelenic ties it. Out of all the good players in their lineup, we blow a save to Jared Kelenic, and now we're in extras against a playoff caliber team. An Atlanta walk-off would not be fun to see, but that is exactly what their new shortstop Bo Bichette does, so all the Pickles can do is watch as their hearts are broken. Unfortunately, that cost us another series, but at the beginning of May, I'm a bit surprised to see some actual contributors, as Nido might actually make the All-Star game, while Tristan Gray and Jonathan Aranda look like quality starters. The same goes for our rotation, as Quinn Priester continues to dominate with an ERA near 2, and I'm also surprised to see Chris Flexen playing well, as he is a 31-year-old Rule 5 draft pickup, but he does have B potential. Out of our 3 veteran pitching projects, he's the only one doing well, as Cal Quantrill and Trevor Rogers are really struggling. Going back to scouting, we have some good news as David Wong immediately becomes the number 3 player on my board, so unless we find someone better, we might be reaching in the first round. With one of our selections this year, I do want to take a catcher, as we have Nido playing well, but he's only on a 1-year deal and is getting up there in age. I'm not seeing much, but I will scout Jose Chavez, who plays good defense, but now in week 5, we are done scouting international pitchers, and it looks like there are some great options, especially early on in the draft. I really like the third baseman, but looking at Ernest Torrero, he might need to be the guy, as hits and walks per 9 are very important, and he has both of them. Hear me out, but I would also be interested in scouting someone like Jim Brown, whose potential is a lot lower, but I feel like he would simulate very well with high contact, vision, and discipline. Just for fun, let's throw him on the board and see what happens, and if he sucks, you guys can throw tomatoes at me. He reminds me exactly of a player named Mason Valenzuela from the Pickles 24 franchise, and he won like 3 batting titles, so I'm hoping history repeats itself. We are neck and neck with the Rockies for the worst team in baseball, and Jonathan Aranda is trying to prove that we're better, as a blooper gives us the early lead, and this is crushed 2 at-bats later. That is a home run for Keston Hiura, who was one of our bigger free agent signings during the offseason, but obviously he is not off to a good start. Regardless, we take a 4-0 lead and make it 5-0 as the Coors effect is real. The Pickles are on their way to one of their most decisive victories of the season, especially after another home run from Jankowski and Aranda. Honestly, this year's a success if we don't finish with the worst record, and after that win, we are tied with Colorado at 13-31. We have finished scouting Jim Brown, and I'm curious to see what his ratings are. That contact is still really good. I would seriously consider drafting him just to prove that overall doesn't matter, but since we're likely not taking Tom Bake in the first round, I want to find another good hitter, and Darren Kern's stats are too good to pass up. Our Discovery Scouts also just found our first solid pitcher of the class in Benji Faulkner, which is definitely a name with aura, and I'd be curious to see if he's as good as the guys we took last year. We are down 1-0 with the bases loaded against Texas, and there's an RBI, so we have the momentum, especially because we've only given up 1 hit. With 1 away, Jankowski can get another run on the board, and there's a sac fly, so we pull ahead, but Cal Quantrill is immediately making me nervous. It has not been a good year for him so far, but just like the team itself, I'm optimistic he can bounce back. Meanwhile, Tomas Nido stays on fire, and there's another single, so Travis Jankowski gets the chance to extend our lead, but that's a fly out. That means we have a 1-run lead for our bullpen, but so far so good, as they are down to their final out, and there we go. We are staying above the Rockies for last place, and we closed out the month with a series victory against Tampa Bay. I think this is the best our team has looked since the beginning of the season, as our new roster is starting to gel together, but if we want to get out of the cellar, we need to see more consistent performances from other players on our offense, like MJ Melendez, who's been on a cold streak for most of the season and is not developing the way we wanted. And now in our next week of scouting, I'm looking at some shortstops like Jacob Wells, who's a long-term project but might have upside someday. Now we're taking on the 4th place division Astros, who we are just 4 games behind, and here is a great play in left field, and MJ Melendez must have heard me talking about him because he made the play of his life to help us beat a division rival. We're trying to overtake Houston, and there's 1 game left in this series, which we win, so we are now 3.5 games back from 4th place. Going into scouting, it seems we finally found a good player in Jacob Wells, whose rank goes up from 117 to 77, so he immediately becomes one of my favorite players in the class, but he might have just been outdone by our Discovery Scout, who is the number 21 ranked player in the class and mashes lefties. This kind of puts us in a pickle, so I'm going to scout both players and see who the best one is, and while we could take both players, it is clear that we need to take Grimsley, as he goes up to number 12 and can play every position. Also, our Discovery Scout cooked again, finding the number 15 player in the class, Sean Kelly, along with another player who definitely sucks, but he has an S-tier name. We are nearly to the MLB draft, but before we get there, we have something very important to do. The Pickles still have not gotten a sweep, and this could be their chance, as they're tied up in extra innings against Washington. This is hit well into left field, but it will not get down, but I assume the runner is going to try to tag to third base. There he goes. We have the arm to throw him out. What an absolute hose from MJ Melendez, who might be the one to end this, but it comes up short. So now it's back to the Nationals, and we're trying to hold them, which we do. We are so close to a 3-game sweep right before the draft, and of course it's Tomas Nido to get it done. That is another walk-off for the Pickles, who have a few this season, and that is the perfect way to go straight into the MLB draft. I've been staring at the screen trying to figure out who to take with the number 2 overall pick, as starting pitcher Ernest Torrero is a sure thing with a good walks and hits per 9, and 18-year-old David Wong is coming in with a pretty well-balanced skill set, so I'm not really sure what to do. The one reason I usually don't take pitchers high in the draft is because there are so many down the board that tend to be gems, as we can find discovery guys pretty much as late as we want. However, a position like third base is very hard to come by, and David Wong is the only one we scouted, so usually if you find a good position player, you should probably take them. That being said, I have made up my mind, and I'm ready to start our first draft, as the pick is in from the Nationals, and it's neither of our guys. Opposing scouts love to reach for absolute garbage, and with our first pick of the second draft of the Pickles franchise, we are selecting third baseman David Wong out of South Korea. We're not overthinking it, going with the highest graded position player on the board, and I don't think we're going to miss Torrero that much, as my second round target is Leandro Garcia, who is ranked 7 on the board. The one unfortunate thing about this, though, is that Torrero is staying in the division, getting drafted by Houston, and I really hope they don't make us regret that. I think it's time to sim to our next selection and hope Garcia doesn't go, which unfortunately he does, but that was not all that unexpected, and I do have a very good backup plan in shortstop Dennis Grimsley, who is the number 12 player on my board, and I think that's a no-brainer. I couldn't risk losing out on the Discovery shortstop, so our infield is stacked stacked for years to come, and we should be able to get a pretty good pitcher in the next round. Simming forward, sure enough, Alfonso del Villar is the top player on my board, and look at that potential. This guy's going to be a superstar with 93 to 98 and an overall anywhere between 60 and 65. That is great value at pick number 78, so we are pulling the trigger. So I do not regret taking Wong, especially because several discovery pitchers are still on the board for potentially a later round. However, for my next target, I cannot pass up on this first baseman, Monty Madison, which is an amazing name, and he has great power. So he is going all the way to the top of the board, and I am hoping for the best. Unfortunately though, while we were waiting, one of my favorite discovery pitchers, Benji Faulkner, goes off the board, so I'm getting a bit nervous about my board with 3 rounds to go. I am simming to my next selection, and Madison is gone. The Dodgers selected him at 105, 3 picks before us. That man's gonna be an absolute beast, but fortunately, Brad Livingston also looks like a late round gem, as he is number 46 on my board, so why not make the selection here? With 5 discovery pitchers left on the board, I'm moving the position guys to the top. As I mentioned, I really want a catcher, and Alan Taguchi's our best bet. Now we need to hope we don't lose another target as I simulate, and you've got to be kidding me. He goes at number 129 to the Tigers. That is unfortunate, as it seems I'm taking another shortstop in Garret Curtis, who is an 18-year-old switch hitter, and just looking at the low end of his ratings, I'm pretty confident that he's going to be a high potential player, so I'm going to go ahead and select him. He might never turn into anything, but it's still a good late round flyer, especially as all of my discovery pitchers are still on the board and I have to make a decision. With our final selection, I'm taking Tony White, who has the best potential out of the bunch and a high walks per 9, so we turn in the card and end draft number 2. I feel like that could have gone better, but still a solid draft nonetheless, as we are 32 and 66 at the All-Star break, which is indeed the worst record in baseball, and it kind of makes sense looking at the stats, as we have 3 guys above 700 OPS, but outside of that, it is really not good. However, in the rotation, Chris Flexen and Quinn Priester are both playing good, but the same guys at the bottom are struggling, as Trevor Rogers and Cal Quantrill have not gotten going. We are tied for last in the league in runs, so at least we're not the worst, as that on its own is certainly improvement, and we're 28th in total hits. Add in that our team ERA is 29th instead of 30th, and I would say this season is at least somewhat of a success. This year, Tristan Gray is our only All-Star representative, and once again, it is by default. So despite our improvements this year, we still have a long way to go, as we are 4 games behind the White Sox for the worst record in baseball. The rest of the season will be pretty fast, but before we move on, I want to check in on the farm system, as we have several intriguing top prospects and some players who could potentially be up as early as next season. Going in order of draft pick, the first selection was Tommy Pickle, and while he's already 75 overall and that contact is improving, he still needs a lot more work, as he's pretty raw. Pickle is currently hitting 273 with 37 RBIs at AA, which is not bad, but even though he could benefit from more time in the minors, he's the most talented player in the organization and is a real 5-tool guy. Tommy Pickle is only 18 years old, so he needs more time, but the same may not be true for Diego Martinez, who already has the contact and plate skills to be at the next level. He is the highest overall player in the organization, and he is mashing AA, which is not a surprise considering he's 21, and I project him as an opening day starter and a Rookie of the Year favorite next year. Martinez was our 2nd round pick last year, but the guy who was taken in the 3rd round is actually the highest ranked player in the organization, Billy Bobson. He is the number 4 prospect in baseball, while Pickle and Martinez come in at 10 and 11, and even though Billy is just 18 years old, I would not be surprised if he got an early call-up due to his high walks per 9 and his performance in AA. Then with our 4th round pick, we took another pitcher, Pablo Ramón Sanchez, who is definitely a bit older, and unfortunately, he is not playing to his ratings, which kinda sucks. He's still developing and has time to figure it out, but I'm worried he might be a bust, because older prospects are kind of expected to perform right away, especially in AA, which is exactly what Michael Poppy is doing. He maybe see potential, but do not let that fool you, as this guy can absolutely mash, and he's already the highest graded first baseman in the organization and should be called up to the majors next year. Then with our final selection last year, we took closing pitcher Dewey Rippenstein, and as you can see, he is up to 69 overall, and that's because he has been lighting it up with the Trash Pandas, securing 24 saves with a 1.33 ERA and a whip under 1. He is playing like he wants to get called up right now, as he has not given up an earned run in several games. This first draft class is off to a generational start, and I'm very excited to see what the future for the Pickles holds, as several of these players should be debuting next season, with the rest of the class not far behind. Our farm is in great shape, especially after what I feel like is another solid draft, but before we see the ratings of our new players, we have some unfinished business against Chicago. We are facing off against them, trying to dethrone them as baseball's worst team, and a late run gets us the win. So we take game 1, and then with Chris Flexen on the mound, we beat them 14-4. 4. At the start of August, we are 41-72, and I'm proud to say we are no longer the worst team in baseball. That title once again belongs to the Chicago White Sox. I do have to say we are still second worst, as the Rockies and the Marlins both have better records, but simply not finishing in last place would make this season alongside having another good draft. I'm a bit concerned about David Wong though, as his rank has gone down from 4 to 8, but hopefully that is not a big deal, as we need him to be a piece of our future, and it looks like he is. He has 91 potential and 64 overall, and his very well-balanced skill set makes me confident he can be our long-term third baseman. His combination of contact and power should make him a good player in AA, so I'm excited to see how fast he develops and joins the show. In taking Long though, we passed up on the #1 player in the class, a very talented starting pitcher in Ernest Torrero, who went to our division rivals the Astros, and he's pretty good. I'm still happy with Wong and feel like we made the right decision, but considering that Torrero is 68 overall, it will not be long before he's playing against us. Our first draft started off with 2 outfielders, and this one starts off with 2 infielders, as we selected Wong and a discovery shortstop who could definitely benefit from a name change. Regardless, Dennis Grimsley is a very good player with elite contact, especially against lefties, and he has the versatility to play pretty much any other position if he doesn't work at shortstop. I'm gonna skip over Alfonso del Villar for now, but trust me, I'll be coming back to him because I want to mention just how good this infield class was, as we took a 94 potential player and a 97 potential. The funny thing about both of these guys is they were my backup selections, but I'm so glad that it worked out the way that it did, as Brad Livingston is a switch-hitting project first baseman with power who's already coming in at 54 overall. I feel like it's rare for these late-round project guys to be above 90 potential and be above 50 overall, so the fact that we got 2 of them in one draft is insane, as Curtis might be even better. This draft might at least be on par with the first one, and I have not even gotten to the pitchers yet, as Alfonso del Villar is coming in with 96 potential and 63 overall. I know he's 23 years old, which could be a concern, but honestly to me it doesn't matter with this skill set, as his walks per 9 is already starting off in a great spot, and the same goes for our 6th round pick Tony White, who is 18 years old but is already 55 overall with a 56 walks per 9. This entire draft class was one of the deepest ones I'd ever seen, so I'm glad we could take advantage and pick up some new players to add to what is probably the best farm in the league. That being said, I think we've done all that we can do, so I'm going to simulate to the end of the season and see where we're at. This rebuild is just getting started, as we have 3 playoff teams in our division, and we finished 55 and 107, but as you know, our one big goal this season was to not finish in last place, and it is now time for the big reveal, as it's gonna be between us and Chicago, strolling down, and we are in second to last. Thank you, Chicago. If they didn't exist, we would have been by far the worst team in the league, finishing 12 games under the Cardinals and the Rockies, and that is understandable considering that this entire roster is mostly just plugged with veteran stopgaps, and as you can expect, only a couple of them played well. Shortstop Tristan Gray and Jonathan Aranda were the only players with an OPS above 700, which is a bit disappointing considering Tomas Nido was there for most of the season and fell off a cliff. The further I scroll down, the uglier this becomes, as many of our biggest free agent signings did not even produce for the team, but at the very least, MJ Melendez had 79 RBIs, which I will take. He also developed surprisingly well, getting up to 73 overall, and even though our offense was terrible, most of our players did improve across the board, which might be enough for me to give them another shot next year. Our most improved player without a doubt was Quinn Priester, who might have solidified himself as our opening day starter, putting together a surprisingly really good season. Also, while Chris Flexen did tail off at the end, I would be interested in keeping him around at the right price, but the same cannot be said for Cal Quantrill and Trevor Rogers, who were massive disappointments. The one thing we need to improve this offseason is our bullpen, as I cannot even count how many games these guys lost for us, as there was pretty much nobody worth mentioning. However, the good news for this unit is top 15 prospect Dewey Rippenstein is on his way up, and I have a strong feeling we're going to be relying on him heavily, and he should be our best reliever the day he gets into the clubhouse. The other reinforcement that is coming up, maybe on opening day, is Diego Martinez, as this guy is already the best hitter on the team, and I'm excited to see what he can do. Entering the offseason, we have 3 free agents, but I'm only offering a contract to one of them, and that is Tomas Nido. On our budget, I don't think we're finding another catcher that can hit righties as well as he can, so I'm giving him a fair deal, $2.2 million. Free agency is going to be a lot more chill than last year, as we're pretty much never going to be able to spend big money, but in the first wave, I did find a very interesting player. After going undrafted, a potential first baseman, Richard McIntyre, is in free agency, and I feel like I have to give him a deal. Trevor Rogers is asking for $6.7 million after a terrible season, so instead of paying him, I am giving much less to Chris Flexen. This year I'm being much more selective with my free agents, going after Brayan Rocchio to start off, as the Guardians did not offer him arbitration after a terrible season. That should be a fun reclamation project. Along with Heston Kjerstad, we could actually get both of these guys. Those signings could pay off for us, but the most important part of this offseason is the draft lottery, as we are tied with the White Sox and the Cardinals for the best odds in the lottery, and simulating ahead, we are going to drop down 2 spots. The Mets and the Cubs leapfrog us. I've never seen anything like this. That is unfortunate, but at least we get Brayan Rocchio. As I put in offers for him and Kjerstad, we are 2 for 2. Those were the biggest moves of a quiet offseason, and while there's risk in signing both players, it's a pretty low investment, and we would be getting a lot of value from them if they reach their full potential. This is our official opening day lineup entering season 3, as we had Brayan Rocchio and Heston Kjerstad to the top. If we scroll to the bottom, there is a brand new rookie waiting for us, Diego Martinez, who is the first rookie we've called up. He is far too good of a hitter to be kept in the minor leagues, but there's another big reason I call them up early, as we usually only get 6 draft picks per year, but if Martinez can win Rookie of the Year, we would get an extra first rounder. For the time being, he is the only new call-up, but do not be surprised if closing pitcher Dewey Rippenstein joins him soon, along with first baseman Michael Poppy. Then as far as our rotation goes, the pitchers we have drafted are nowhere close to being called up, but this offseason we did sign Jake Woodford, who has a 73 walks per 9, so there's a chance he might be something, along with Rule 5 draft pickup Jimmy Joyce, who honestly was the best there. It's also worth mentioning that Cal Quantrill is now a long reliever, because as a starter last season, his ERA was above 5. Finally, we have a brand new opening day starter in Quinn Priester, who I'm really hoping continues to develop because he was lights out last year. Opening days against the Astros, and I am very excited to see what Diego Martinez and the rest of the team can do. This is a crucial season 3, as the core of our team will start to come together, as we have stocked our farm with talented players, so no one's job is safe, as here is Diego Martinez's first at bat, and that is well hit but will be caught. However, that was good contact and hopefully a sign of good things to come, as one of our free agent signings, Brayan Rocchio, just tied the game. His hitting stats are okay at best, but I still believe in him to develop, as him along with Heston Kjerstad are this year's reclamation projects. We are tied up 1-1, and with Rocchio on second base, Kjerstad drives him in, so Portland takes an opening day lead and Quinn Priester is turning things around. We are sweating this out, but this could be our chance to rally, as there are 2 aboard for MJ Melendez, good contact into the double play. It is still just a 1-run game, but Priester was not able to hold on, so we're trusting our bullpen the rest of the way, and they get us out of the jam. This is very intense, as there's a walk, so the Pickles have 2 on for Diego Martinez. This would be the best time for his first career hit, but unfortunately it will not happen, and it didn't take long for our bullpen to completely collapse. Things are looking bleak, but it is not over yet, as we have 2 guys on board, and one of them just scored to make it a 2-run game. As Martinez makes good contact, it's foul. Here's his last chance to get a hit on opening day. He swings on it straight to the shortstop, but the throw goes to first base offline. It may count as a base hit, but we're still alive, at least until this, as the Astros really pulled ahead in the back end of the game, securing the victory. In the game, the Pickles only scored 3 runs on 11 hits, which once again will not cut it, and now I'm curious how the rest of the series is gonna go. We do get a victory, but lose 3 out of 4. That was pretty expected. However, now we're going up against the one team that was worse than us last year, the White Sox. This is also the debut of a brand new pitcher, Jimmy Joyce, and Travis Jankowski goes deep in the 3rd, and here's Diego Martinez, who hits lefties pretty well, and he's consistently making good contact, but it's just not dropping. I do want to give him time to figure it out, because we can always send him back down to AAA if it doesn't work out early on, and the last thing I want to do is ruin this rebuild by rushing our prospects development. We shut out Chicago in Game 1, and simming Game 2, we also win it, so we're looking to bust out the brooms to start our season strong, but Andrew Benintendi just went yard. That is a devastating break, as they tie it up in the 9th, so now we need to rally if we want the win, and with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th, there's no way MJ Melendez walks it off in front of our very few fans. That is a signature win for the Pickles that earns them a series sweep over the White Sox, and I know it's still very early in the season, but I really like how this team feels. However, everything might come crashing down as we're taking on the Dodgers, and we just lost 23-2. I know it's LA, but this might have been our worst game ever, and that includes everything in the first year where we only had 19 wins. I really want to forget that, so we're moving on to the draft class where we have the number 4 overall pick, and so far I'm seeing a lot of pitchers at the top, which is certainly less than ideal. The number 1 player in the class is a corner outfielder, Geronimo Mendoza, and while he does look solid, we already have so many outfielders, so I'm looking for something a bit better. However, looking through the board, all the prospects early on in the class are either outfielders or starting pitchers, so we need to figure something out. It also doesn't help that catcher is our biggest need in this class, but I am not seeing any first-round prospects, so I'm turning my focus to second base where it looks like there are some options that could work out. In the first week of scouting, I'm looking at Alex O'Malley, who's the number 11 player in the class, and I really hope he's a blue chip player because this class does not look great so far and we could use all the help we can get. Now Portland is going into a division series against Seattle, which they actually win, and I really don't know how it happened because the Mariners are a playoff team. They are now looking for the sweep in Game 3 as we're tied 0-0, and now we have the chance to walk off another series. To make it even more exciting, we're going to extras where Seattle hits into a double play, so the winning run is on second base and Tristan Gray smacks us into right to secure the Portland Pickles another walk-off sweep. What an amazing ending. What a great way to recover from losses to the Dodgers as we grind out a sweep, and after a week of scouting, Alex O'Malley's rating goes up to number 8. Don't get me wrong, he is not looking like an amazing prospect as the contact needs a lot of work and there's virtually no power to his game, so while I do want to keep looking, I would not be surprised if he is the best we're gonna get. At the middle of April, our record is 8-8, and it's really early, but checking out the stats, I am shocked to see that Rule 5 draft pickup Reggie Crawford is our best overall player. He is leading our entire team with a batting average above 400 and an OPS above 1000, and while those stats are not sustainable, it's definitely something to keep in mind. Then there's the new free agents Brian Rocchio and Heston Kjerstad, who are beginning to slow down after great starts, but overall they are still producing for our team. The same goes for MJ Melendez, who is hitting .319, and of course he was the hero in the White Sox series, hitting the walk-off home run that gave us the sweep. However, I'm a bit worried about Diego Martinez, who has a .203 batting average and only 5 RBIs, and along with that, he also has a pretty high strikeout rate, which is pretty common for rookies who are not ready. Before I send him down though, I want to give him more time to see if he can turn things around, because remember that Randy Trout was another player who started out slow, and that worked out pretty well. It's also too early to look at our pitchers, but so far so good, as we have 4 players with an ERA under 4. Moving forward, the Pickles have lost 2 series in a row, but now they're facing Toronto, trailing 1-0, but they leave the bases loaded. They're in danger of losing their 3rd series ever since they swept Seattle, as they are still making contact, but it feels like nothing is getting down. Players like Tomas Nido and Jonathan Aranda, who were good last year, are really struggling, and that's the biggest reason our offense has been a mixed bag, but finally Heston Kjerstad hits a huge double. Even though it's late in the game, we could make a comeback as there's a sac fly, and with the tying run on second, Nido gets a slider over the plate that he sends to their right fielder, so the Pickles have lost their 3rd series in a row, and just like last season, we are quickly fading away. Then to add to our bad luck, I am struggling to find a good player at a position of need, as the number 5 player in the class is a bust, so I feel like it would be a good move to at least look at the other outfielders just to make sure I'm covering all my bases. That's a baseball pun. Now we're looking for a series win against Washington as we simulate, and there it is. So now we're more confident going into a close game against the Rangers. We're only down by 1, but need a 9th inning rally, and here's the perfect chance for the rookie Martinez to prove himself. That is great contact straight to Corey Seager for a double play. That is classic MLB The Show as the rookie gets unlucky, so we're sinking faster and faster into last place. However, going through more draft prospects, I think I found a real gem in Eugene Vasquez, who may not look like anything special, but that contact is elite. I truly believe he could win a batting title, so I'm throwing him on the board, and we're gonna hope for the best. This could be the great news our team really needs, although we win a series against Houston, but after finishing his profile, I am confident I found the player I want to take in round 1. It's kind of a reach at number 4 overall, but he would not be available with our next selection, so I don't care, as him along with Diego Martinez and Tommy Pickle could be an amazing outfield of the future. Now that we have a pretty good idea of who we're gonna select, we can move on to later round position players, and I'm starting at catcher with Eddie Munoz. In the middle of May, we are 20-24, and that is around what I expected, but looking at the stats, Brian Rocchio is leading our team in RBIs, with the rookie Diego Martinez right behind him, so I hope he's figuring it out. It's also been a great season so far for Tristan Gray and MJ Melendez, who are breaking out, and they're definitely compensating for a lot of guys who are underperforming, like Jonathan Aranda and Tomas Nido. So I hope he is slowly but surely figuring it out. Our goal last season was to not finish last in MLB, so why not do the same thing but with our division, as we're currently in 4th place with the Mariners in last, but they just tied up this game. Mike Trout is still on the team, and he is very used to being in last in the AL West, but considering Seattle just made the playoffs, I'm a bit worried they're gonna heat up. Their pitching was too much for the Pickles offense, and just like that, they jump us and the Astros into 3rd place. Going back to scouting, Eddie Munoz is alright, but I just found another catcher that I really want to go after, and that is Tom Tebow. That is an insane coincidence. After doing some digging, he is indeed distantly related to Tim Tebow, who, in case you didn't know, also played played pro baseball. Based on the name alone, I'm expecting Tom to be a 99 potential, as anything less than that would simply not be Tebow mania. It is the beginning of June, and finally time to bring up one of my favorite prospects on the board, and that is closing pitcher Dewey Rippenstein, who is having another insane year at AA, so he's making the jump up to the bigs. And right off the rip, pun intended, he will be stepping into the closer role as Michael Grove has not been very good. My original plan was to also bring up Michael Poppy from AA, as he is 73 overall and playing pretty good, but to my surprise, Rule 5 draft pickup Reggie Crawford has been our best offensive player so far with an OPS of 815. Just 2 games after being called up, we are calling on Dewey Rippenstein to get the save, and honestly, his stuff is not that impressive, as his fastball can barely hit 90. However, I feel like he makes up for that with a lot of break on his pitches, so I'm interested how he does the rest of the season. That should have been a double play. The game should have ended right there, but here's a strikeout, so our rookie closer earns his first save of the year. That secures a series win and a good start to the month, but now we have one of the most important scouting sessions of my entire life. We need to find out how good Tom Tebow is 115. That isn't a good start, but his profile still isn't complete, so we continue advancing as we win another series against Texas and a game against San Diego. I'm not sure where this is coming from, but the improvement of Diego Martinez might have something to do with it, as he is leading our team in RBIs and home runs, and much to my surprise, our rotation is playing well above its ratings, as newcomer Jake Woodford has been the best, with Quinn Priester right behind him. We have a chance to win our 3rd series in a row, and here's an RBI single, as we break a tie against the Padres, and Quinn Priester's having a great game on the mound, but here is Reggie Crawford launching this one into right center field, sending it all the way back. It doesn't go over the fence. I would have bet money that was a dinger, but at least it's a double, so we're in position to add an insurance run, but Rocchio cannot get it done. This might be another save opportunity for Dewey, but not so fast, as the Padres tie it up and we get picked off in the 9th. Instead of closing it out, we are back in extra innings, but so far we are looking very good as we score on 2 singles. It looks like after all that, Dewey is gonna get his chance as we score another run, but our rally is still very much alive as Diego Martinez loads the bases. Any chance to extend our lead is welcome, as Travis Jankowski barely keeps this fair to score 2 more, so after a bit of fun, the Pickles win another game, which is their 4th win in a row, and make it 5. They are comfortably in 4th place, just like we want, but unfortunately, going into scouting, I don't think Tom Tebow is gonna be a target. To be fair though, it's kinda hard to complain when so much is going right for our team, as we also find a discovery shortstop, and Carlos Lopez is ranked number 13 in the class, at least for now. More than ever, I feel like this draft class is super heavy on the starting pitchers, so don't be surprised if I once again take 2 or 3 of them, and a player like Oliver Bautista and Alex Trevino should be available in the 2nd round. It was a great start of June for the Pickles, but it seems they're hitting a bit of a bump, as they are now just a game and a half above the Astros, and it seems a few of their best players like Brian Rocchio are now on cold streaks. Regardless though, I'm still very pleased with our offensive production, as we have a lot of players above 700 OPS, but our rookie Diego Martinez is almost there, as he is improving at a very fast rate. However, he needs to get even better, as he's not even in the running for Rookie of the Year, as instead it is Reggie Crawford, and don't get me wrong, that's good for the team, but if he wins it, we would not be rewarded a 1st round pick. Being honest, that 1st round pick is the only reason that I have not been manipulating his service time, as he was the only rookie to make the opening day roster from a farm system with 12 top 100 guys. Our farm system is ridiculous, and I just finished renaming the players from the season 2 drafts, as our 1st round pick David Wong becomes Takeshi Nakamura, and our 2nd round shortstop will now be called Maddux Charles. As always, check out the description for all of the names, as we have the number 1 prospect in baseball in 5th round shortstop Willy Fields. Someday this guy's gonna be something, and right now he is 1 out of 3 of our top 10 prospects, which is pretty ridiculous. However, do not forget about Tommy Pickle, who is the number 2 overall pick in the 2025 draft, and there's a pretty good chance he's the next player that gets called up to the majors, but he needs to show some more consistency in AA. After another week of scouting, I'm interested in shortstop Carlos Lopez, who is now the number 8 player on the board, and he hits for good power, which is rare to find in a shortstop. Our 3rd draft is only a couple weeks away, and I'm super excited, and with our final 2 scouting sessions, I am looking for late round position players just like DJ Robinson. I am also going to keep discovering position guys, because that's worked out pretty well for us in the past 2 drafts. We are currently just 3 games under 500, so we need to keep going, sweeping Cleveland, but losing the next 2. We're consistently a few games below 500, so I'm simulating to the draft, and I am immediately greeted with a huge surprise, as our discovery scouts might have just found the number 1 player, or at least they think. The reason I say that is players like Oliver Oliver Gore are usually too good to be true, as there's no way he's even close to the high end of his ratings, and at the very best, his potential might be in the low to mid 80s. He might be a good value if he's available in the later rounds, just as a fun little flyer, but the discovery player I'm more focused on is Carlos Lopez, who I think is going to be great. However, as you know, my plan in round 1 is to take Eugene Vasquez, who is another switch hitter. I feel like we've gotten so many of those. Combining that with his very good contact, and you basically have my dream prospect, so he is my surefire pick, but as I mentioned, I do want to take a starting pitcher, and thankfully this class has plenty of options, especially in that second round range. Here's to another solid draft in Portland Pickles history, as the first card comes in, and it's the first player I scouted. As it turns out, nobody in the top 3 had the cojones to take the guy we wanted, so Eugene Vasquez is still on the board, and welcome to the Portland Pickles. I'm sure the entire league is laughing at us, but you cannot miss with a player with contact that looks like that. For our next selection, if Armando Fernandez is still available, he's definitely my guy, but I'm guessing he probably won't, so our most likely selection is Oliver Bautista, who's the number 5 player on the board. However, simulating to our next selection, I cannot believe what I'm seeing. Armando Fernandez is still on the board, so we are getting the number 3 player in the class at 41. That is just insane luck, as I didn't expect him to fall, and with the way our board is unfolding, I should probably just draft another pitcher. However, after simulating forward, my favorite option is gone, but Alex Trevino's still here, and he is really not that much worse, so we're gonna take him. That is insane, but also the next best player on my board is a top 10 talent in Carlos Lopez. However, it would be insane if he was still available in round 4, as we'd be getting the number 9 pick, so I'm crossing my fingers, simulating forward, and you've gotta be kidding me, this is working out incredibly well. Second baseman DJ Robinson probably has better potential, but I cannot pass on Lopez again, so he will be selection number 4. This is ridiculous. We do need a second baseman, so I'd love to take Robinson if he's still available, but with so many shortstops, I can always just move one of them to second base, so he definitely is not a need as we sim forward, and he is gone, but Oliver Gore is still on the board. The supposed number 1 player in the class is still here, and while I don't think he's going to be super good, my option is to either take a flyer on him or draft a third pitcher, and I think I know what sounds more fun. We are doing it. Oliver Gore, Godspeed. Let me just remind you guys that every player we've taken has been ranked in the top 10 by our scouts, which is an absurd value regardless of how good they actually are, as at this point in the draft, I feel like the Oliver Gore selection is worth it as long as his potential is somewhere in the low 80s. We are once again on the clock with 2 discovery pitchers available, and just to end things off, I'm going to take the best one, Enrique Tejada, ending off a very fun draft. I don't think I've ever been more excited or interested to see the results of a draft, but this one definitely has my attention as pretty much every single thing went right. At the All-Star break, we are 45-51, which is still last place in our very competitive division, although not by much, which is a huge step forward. I am very pleased by what I'm seeing from this offense this season, as we have several players above 700 OPS, and Diego Martinez finally joins them. He's not in the Rookie of the Year race just yet, but that could change in the second half, so exciting things are officially happening in Portland, although I am disappointed to see Jonathan Aranda hitting 165 after a promising season 2. Also, our rotation has been surprisingly solid, as Quinn Priester has a winning record, and he's putting up very similar numbers as last year, but is also now joined by Jake Woodford, whose ERA is also under 4. Then in the bullpen, there's not really much to note, aside from closer Dewey Rippenstein, who's definitely not off to the strongest start, but hopefully that changes the rest of the year. Stats are very fun, but now I'm skipping all the way to August to give the people what they want, because we have to look at a draft class that had 5 top 10 talents. I'm calling it right now, this draft is going to be somewhere between season 1 and season 2, just because I don't think you can beat the value of the 2 outfielders we got in the first year, not to mention the 2 starting pitchers and a closer. Unless our scouts lied to us, this should be pretty insane, and holy crap! When I said this draft was going to be good, I did not expect anywhere close to what I'm seeing right now, as the pitcher that fell to us ended up being 99 potential with 71 overall. That is the first thing I noticed, as I was left speechless for pretty much the first time in channel history, and I skipped completely over our first pick, Eugene Vasquez, who might actually be the worst player of the draft class. That is saying something, because I love his contact, but getting a 71 overall pitcher that I actually considered taking at number 4, but getting a pitcher in the second round that's even better than I expected is such a win. And the crazy part is with all these selections, we just took the best player on the board and did not overthink it. I am also just now seeing that our last pitcher is 99 potential with a 54 overall. And I said from the beginning that this pitching class was stacked, but it's also extremely rare to find 99 potential players outside of round 1, and we got 2 of them. Then we took another pitcher, Alex Trevino, who's 18 years old at 64 overall, but regardless, he is still a part of the future of this rotation, and I'm so excited to see what he can do. However, I am skipping over the fact that both of our discovery players were absolutely insane. Oliver Gore's a 78 overall. That is a generational level talent that we got in the 5th round, and I was so confident he was not going to be good. I have never seen a discovery player this good, and the craziest part of all of it is he was not on anybody's board, as from my experience, discovery position guys will go in round 2 or round 3. He was discovered on the last week of the cycle, so I didn't have a chance to scout him, but I am so glad I did because he's broken. Then there's Carlos Lopez, who's certainly not in the same tier, but is still a really good player, and with power like this, he might be our true shortstop of the future and reminds me of Juan Espinosa, another Pickles reference. Moving forward, I've decided that Diego Martinez is not going to win Rookie of the Year, so I think the best move might actually be to send him down and save his service time, which is definitely a scummy thing to do, but also on brand for a pretty broke franchise. That being said, we are simulating to the end of the season, pretty much conceding defeat, as there's no way we're making the playoffs, as we finish with a 73-89 record. We also accomplished our goal of not finishing in dead last, as the Astros finished 1 game below us. Big shout out to all these free agents, but I'm not bringing any of them back, especially Cal Quantrill, who wants $11 million for a 6 ERA. The first 3 seasons of this franchise were all about 1, developing a farm system, and 2, developing reclamation projects to build ourselves a solid core. I will say though, we all want the Pickles to win a championship, but I'm also kinda rooting for the Rocket City Trash Pandas, because that's where all of our young guys are developing, so this is hands down the best AA roster I've ever seen, and I would be genuinely surprised if they did not win a championship. This offseason, we're spending a bit more money than usual, as Quinn Priester and MJ Melendez are both hitting arbitration, and we're giving them extensions, and with both players coming off of pretty good seasons, they're not exactly cheap, so that's gonna eat up most of our offseason budget. However, I feel like that works out, as this free agent class is really not deep at all, especially at shortstop where there's 2 guys. Our current roster is in a very good spot, as Diego Martinez is coming back up to the show, along with very likely Tommy Pickle and Oliver Gore. We just drafted him, but his contact versus righties is already 85, so our outfield suddenly looks very good, especially with Heston Kjerstad having a good year. As far as our needs go, we could always use another starting pitcher, but we won't find anything better than this at our budget in free agency. And as I mentioned before, Quinn Priester proved himself very capable, along with Jimmy Joyce and Jake Woodford, so there's really no reason to sign anybody else, especially with more young players on the way. Another interesting thing to note though is MJ Melendez is currently projected as our starting catcher, which makes sense as that's where he started his career. However, with a very loaded outfield room, I don't think there's any room for him moving forward, so it's very likely he's gonna get moved to catcher full time. This year we have a 2.7% chance of getting the #1 pick, and I'm feeling lucky, so we are simulating forward, hoping for good luck we get bumped down to number 10. As far as the offseason goes, that's pretty much it, as the only player I'm offering a deal to is Brock Burke, and fortunately for us, he accepts our low ball offer. Before the season starts, I think the most important thing to do is to finally bring up Tommy Pickle, as he's definitely our center fielder of the future and deserves to be on the squad. The Tommy Pickle era has arrived, and I give him a pretty good chance to win Rookie of the Year, as he has 97 speed out the gate, which is going to be really fun. Along with him, his partner in crime, Diego Martinez, is back on the squad, and out of any player in baseball, I would say he's most likely to break out. Then there's a couple more additions, like Rule 5 draft pickup Kyle Stowers, who's definitely not as good as he's been in real life, but still solid nonetheless. Another thing worth mentioning is that I do plan to bring up Big Papi as soon as we're able to, and when we finally do, that will be an interesting dilemma, as Reggie Crawford just won Rookie of the Year. I am very excited to see what our team can do on opening day, as there's a flyout from Martinez, and Quinn Priester is making his 2nd straight opening day start after 2 great seasons in a row, but he gives up an early double. That double would soon turn into the first run of the game, so the Pickles need an answer, and MJ Melendez gets a perfect pitch to hit. That curveball is left right up in the zone, and he drives it into right field. MJ is back at catcher, and I'm expecting great things after a 22 home run, 80 RBI season, as his season's off to a great start and Quinn Priester gets back on track. This is also the debut of Tommy Pickle, and I'm excited to see his speed, as we are still tied up at 1 apiece in the 5th. However, we have a man on first base for Naito, but the shortstop makes an incredible play, so we are still grinding out a sweaty, and Taj Bradley keeps trying to throw the curveball. It's not working. Unfortunately, though, we could not score, and for some reason, Dewey Rippenstein's in the game. He is definitely our closer. I definitely have to change that at the end of the game, but MJ Melendez continues to cook with another big play. What a great way to start the inning as we get another man on, so we might finally be able to score a run as we get so lucky they bobble the ball and Tristan Gray is gonna reach base. Now the bases are loaded for Cody Clemens, who drives in a 2 RBI single, so we have taken the lead as there's 2 on for Tommy Pickle, but he flies out to right field. We are finally in front, and now it's up to our bullpen to close this game out, but it might be an easier job than I thought as MJ Melendez scores another run, and the Portland Pickles secure an opening day victory in season number 4. There's still work to be done, but I saw a lot of good stuff out there as Quinn Priester only gives up 1 run in 6 innings, and on top of that, MJ Melendez was an absolute beast. Hopefully that can ride us to a series victory as we win Game 2 and Game 4. In this 4-0 victory, Tommy Pickle got his first career hit while Diego Martinez went deep, so it's fair to say that the future is already here, but just wait until we bring up Oliver Gore, who I kind of forgot about, and he is not far away from the show. The Pickles won their first 2 series against the Rays and the Pirates, but now they're taking on Baltimore, and after losing Game 1, I'm a bit worried how the rest of the series will go. Simming forward, we do win Game 2, and looking at the stats, Tristan Gray had 6 RBIs, and that'll definitely help. That means that our toughest series of the year will come down to the 3rd game, but I have some unfortunate news as it seems our goated Discovery Scout decided to retire. That means we need a new one, so I'm going with Faith Brever, who has 98 Discovery, and hopefully that will play. This year I'm marking our scouting needs as starting pitcher because I always do, along with catcher and third base, but just a general warning, do not raise your expectations this year as nothing will be able to top the draft we had last year. That was nothing short of generational. We're gonna start strong looking at catchers, and if Steve Pacheco falls, he might very well be my pick with great contact. It is time for our final game of the series against Baltimore, and down 1, Jordan Groshans just cleared the bases with a double. That just gave us a 4-2 lead, so that is a game-changing play, but now Tommy Pickle hits it 107 right to second base. That was bad luck, and 2 weeks into the season, we're still waiting on him to get going, but so far he has not been bad as Rippenstein gets the save, and the Portland Pickles win another series. We are off to a 7-3 start, which I never expected, as we win another series against Milwaukee, and we are in 2nd place heading into division play. Last year, we finished 1 game above the Astros, so they are looking for revenge, as Game 1 is very close, but that is absolutely belted to straightaway center. MJ Melendez does it again. It is very early, but he's putting himself in the all-star conversation with a 1,000 OPS, and his great performance could win us another game. Rippenstein's looking for save number 4, but walks Altuve, so the tying run is on first base, but immediately steals second. This is getting a little close for comfort, but thankfully there's a pop-up, so Portland wins the first game of the series. And not to jinx him, but Dewey Rippenstein has an ERA of 0 and seems set for a big year 2. Now we're simming the next game against Houston, which we win, so that's another Pickles victory and another save from Rippenstein. Almost 3 weeks into the season, we have a division lead, and looking at the stats, it seems that Diego Martinez has officially figured things out, as unlike last year, he is having a great start to the season with a 943 OPS. However, on another note, Tommy Pickle's slash line is not very good, and he's still figuring things out, but I'm willing to be patient. The same thing can also be said for defending Rookie of the Year Reggie Crawford, who is having a terrible start, and if that continues, he might be getting sent down in favor of Big Papi. You gotta give me credit for coming up with a nickname that has never been given to anybody ever, but in all seriousness, he's never gonna be as good as Ortiz, but I think he's gonna be a fine player. After a week of scouting, Pacheco's ratings do go down, which is unfortunate because I really like him, but the good news is there's still a lot of catchers left on the board, and hopefully one of them is good. We are 12-4, but now we're taking on Seattle, and they're a super good team, but we are still winning games. That is an unbelievable sweep. The Pickles just owned 2 of their division rivals in back-to-back series, and now they're taking on the Rangers, and they just tied it up with a sacrifice fly, but it feels like MJ Melendez comes through anytime we need a big play. He doubled against Jose Soriano as Tristan Gray scores the go-ahead run, and that's very fitting because Gray is also having a great season and is challenging MJ for best hitter on the team. Thanks to those 2 guys, we have taken the lead, but now Reggie Crawford's trying to get out of his slump, launching this into right center field to score Gray. This Pickles team has barely called up any of its young talent, but they are still finding ways to win as they win a series against Texas for the 2nd time in 2 weeks. Also, in the final game of the series, Tommy Pickle hit a home run, so he is definitely heating up and is second on the team in hits, only behind Diego Martinez. I know it's very premature, but I want to take a look at some awards just to see what we're lined up for, as unfortunately Tommy Pickle is not in the running for Rookie of the Year, but scrolling over to the Hank Aaron, you can see MJ Melendez. This has been the best possible start, but now we're starting to lose more games, so I'm a little bit nervous as there's a series sweep. All it could take is one slump to ruin everything that we've built so far this year, as we are also trailing to the Athletics, but thankfully Kerstead able to give us the lead. This is the only team in our division we have not won a series against, but they tie it up in the 8th inning, so this will very likely come down to the wire. However, we are the home team, so we have a chance to walk it off, but we do get the tying run on first base. He's stealing second, but is thrown out. That means we are going to extras where they take the lead, and I really don't like facing Mason Miller, but fortunately Jonathan Aranda sprays this into left, and we tie it right back up. Once again, the winning run is on first and now second base, so it is time to lock in and win this game. Reggie Crawford to left field, it's gonna be caught. There are 2 outs for Rocchio, who swings and misses, so we're putting our faith in Dewey Rippenstein. After a strikeout, I'm feeling confident as he has not given up many runs this season, but unfortunately this will be one of them. Now I'm terrified of Brent Rooker, but there's another strikeout, so now we need another run to stay alive, but unfortunately that is game, and we're in danger of losing our first division series of the year, but we split it 2-2. It seems we're back as we sweep the Blue Jays and have won 5 in a row, but unlike in previous years, I'm really struggling to find anything in the scouting game, so our insane luck might just be leveling out. At least for good news, we discovered the number 1 pitcher in the class, Spencer Erdman, and with that walks per 9, he might just be my first round pick. I don't think I can let him go. After losing our Discovery Scout last year, I'm very glad we found an elite player like that, and I'm really hoping we can find a few more players before the draft. At the start of June, we have a 4.5 game division lead, and just from looking at the stats, I can tell that our offense is doing exactly what we were hoping for, as Reggie Crawford leads us in home runs and RBIs, which is very impressive. Last year's Rookie of the Year is now up to B potential, and it's a really good thing he's playing this well, because my plan was to bring up Michael Poppy, who is really struggling in AA and is certainly not ready. I might still bring him up if he can turn things around before the end of the season, but the other player that's very interesting is Oliver Gore, who's the number 9 prospect in baseball, but that's still probably underrated. There is no doubt that he is pro ready with a 305 batting average and 929 OPS, and while he's not going to be our center fielder, I cannot hold him down any longer. Oliver Gore, welcome up to the show. Our lineup is finally looking electric, with Tommy Pickle leading off, and Diego Martinez and Oliver Gore at 3 and 5, but I still have not mentioned our rotation, and that needs to change because they have been lights out. It's been a great year for Chris Flexen, who is in a contract year, but he is still developing very nicely, and it might be smart to give him an extension because it's not going to cost us a lot of money. Then of course, there's our ace Quinn Priester, who's putting up another great season, and everything that he's done since getting to Portland has been very impressive. Everyone has been really impressive, but add in the fact that Dewey Rippenstein is having a great sophomore season, and it's easy to understand why we're 4th in the league in ERA. After another week of scouting, we found a good second base prospect in Ray Woodson, who we could develop over time, but our Discovery Scout also found 2 outfielders, Hector Almanza and Joey Corona, who could both be pretty good. I think the last thing we need is more outfielders, but I'm still going to take the best players I possibly can, as that's pretty much been the strategy for the entire rebuild, and looking at the top 100 prospects list, I'll say it worked out pretty well. We are still winning the division, but are being tested against the Mariners, and here's a Tommy Pickle double. That's the first base hit we've seen in game with him, so obviously I need to steal, and this man is dangerous. He is the tying run at third base, but in the end, the steal didn't really do anything as Rocchio goes deep. It's been a while since I checked the awards, but I assume that Tommy Pickle is now in the running for Rookie of the Year, as here is a Diego Martinez home run. It is great to see both of our first 2 draft picks making an impact in the same inning, but our rally may not be done. There are 2 aboard for Tristan Gray, who flies out. Regardless, that was a great rally as we get the victory, so the series ends in a tie. Seattle is now 2 games back in the division, which is a little scary, and it will definitely be a battle to watch until the end, but now it's time for the MLB draft, where this catcher is my number 1 target, but it's not likely we're gonna get him. He's the number 7 ranked player on MLB's board and the number 3 player on ours, and I'm sure that we were not the only team that scouted him, so we might need to go a different direction, like starting pitcher Spencer Erdman or even Lorenzo Liriano. I am once again warning you guys that this draft class is nothing like the last one, as aside from these Discovery outfielders, there's really not much talent to point out. The draft in Season 3 was just the best luck of Discovery players ever, but I also just didn't do a great job of scouting this time around, so it's going to be pretty rough. We are selecting at number 10 overall, but Ortega goes number 1, which is definitely definitely unfortunate, but also expected, as we're now choosing between Erdman and Liriano when at number 4, so not him. In past games, I would never take a discovery guy this early, but we know that Erdman's a sure thing, and pitchers are going earlier than ever in MLB The Show 25, so with all those factors considered, along with the fact that Tom Ann is not a good alternative, I am selecting Spencer Erdman. Let's get it. This draft is really not good, so I have no idea what I'm doing with my next selection, but after doing some digging, I want to target Ray Woodson, as we haven't taken a second baseman in the entire rebuild. If you want an idea of how bad this class is, these were the only discovery position players that were any good, but I guess it's better than nothing. But for some reason, I did not scout Alonso Vega. I don't think he's the best player in the world, but that's still a tough break, especially to a division rival. So right now, the choice is between taking another pitcher in Johnny McClain or taking a developmental position player in Dominic Gingerich, and I guess just for position value, I should probably just take the third baseman. Not ideal to miss on our guy, but hopefully Gingerich is good. And moving forward, there are still plenty of discovery options that I'm a big fan of, including the number 5 pitcher in the class, who I kind of forgot about. His walks per 9 is ridiculous, so he is moving to the top of my board, and if he's still available, I'm taking him so fast. Simming to our next pick, sure enough, he is there, but unfortunately, Alonso Vega went to the Dodgers, so I'm probably gonna regret passing on him. As the clock winds down, I am taking Michael Velazquez. Welcome to the Pickles. So we're still putting together a solid class, although one of my favorite players, Nicholas Penny, is gone. If you remember last year, pretty much all of the discovery guys stayed on the board, so I kind of assumed that would just happen again, but instead I am getting punished, as here's my board in round 4, and it's really not good. Our best chance here is to go for a project player, so Sam Winters is the safest pick, but if your round 5 board has 3 discovery relievers on it, along with 2 position guys you did not scout, you're probably cooked. I'll take one of the relievers to close this thing out, so why not, in round 5, finally take a catcher. I don't want to blame this on the draft class, but aside from the 2 pitchers we took in rounds 1 and 3, I don't think any player we drafted is going to break the game, but even then, I still feel like I could have done a better job scouting as this nightmare comes to an end. We are 55 and 42 at the All-Star break, and looking at the roster, there is one player in particular that I feel like is ready to come up. With 72 walks per 9, I feel like Billy Bobson is currently the best starter in the organization, and our long reliever has an ERA above 5, so I think I'm going to send him down and bring up Billy Bobson. That is our first starting pitcher called up, but why stop there? I'm trading Jake Woodford to the Orioles, and while I'm very tempted to call up another player from last year's draft, I feel like Armando Fernandez still needs some more time, so instead of him, we are bringing up Pablo Ramón Sanchez, who is coming from the same draft class as Billy Bobson. He is putting up insane numbers on the year, so hopefully they translate to the MLB level, as I'm slotting both of them into the 4 and 5 spots and just letting them figure it out. That takes care of pitching, but now looking at our offense, Heston Kjerstad is playing very well, as he and MJ Melendez have been the best hitters on the team, but the 3 young outfielders, Diego Martinez, Oliver Gore, and Tommy Pickle, are not far behind. The same can also be said for Reggie Crawford, and the break could not hit at a better time, as he's currently on a cold streak, but even though he's been a little streaky, I feel like he's one of our best hitters when he is playing well. This team has truly turned the corner, becoming one of the best in baseball, but to my surprise, their only all-star is Dewey Rippenstein. I definitely don't understand that, but moving past the break, I am signing Chris Flexen to an extension, and we're getting thrown right into the fire with a close game against Seattle. They are only 3 games out of first place, and are the biggest reason we made so many moves, so calling this series important would be an understatement, but Heston Kjerstad just gave us the 10th inning lead. His career turnaround has been very impressive, as Dewey Rippenstein is going to not close them out. He walks 2 batters, so suddenly the Mariners can walk it off. This is not a good situation to be in, but Dewey gets the strikeout looking, so the Pickles hold on and win the first game of the series. That is a huge deal, but simulating the next 2 games, we win the second and the third. Let's go. We bust out the brooms against a division rival and are now in extras against the Astros, and we have the go-ahead run at third base but cannot come through. Every win matters, with the Mariners breathing down our necks, as we send this to the 12th inning, where Rocchio hits this very softly up the middle, but it gets through and gives us the lead. Then after that, Dewey Rippenstein did his thing, giving us another win, and since he was the number 1 closer in the All-Star game, I'm assuming he's the favorite for reliever of the year, but not so fast. That title actually belongs to Tyler Holton, who has been pretty good in all fairness, putting up an ERA of 1.5 and a whip under 1, which is just insane. That is much better than Dewey, although he has more saves and strikeouts, so this one could really go either way. I also want to take a look at Rookie of the Year, where as you can see, Tommy Pickle is the favorite, but just as the Mariners are chasing us for the division, Vern Bradley, who we almost drafted instead of Tommy Pickle, is right right behind him. This could be the year that I make a deal at the trade deadline, but unfortunately I'm just not seeing anything that interests me, as every player here is either too expensive or not really a need. Instead, we move forward into the month of August, where we are 67-48, which is 7.5 games above Seattle. That is great news, but of course that is not why I'm stopped here, as it is time to view our draft picks, and I'm a little bit scared. Every single one of the classes from seasons 1 through 3 were infinitely better than this one, and I think the only silver lining is we got 2 pitchers with top 5 talent, so that is what I'm interested in seeing as we are diving straight in, and Spencer Erdman, that's a good start. I'm surprised to see that everyone we drafted has blue potential, so at least that's a good thing, but at least for all the position players, the overalls are really bad. For example, we drafted Dominic Gingerich in the 2nd round, which I kind of regret because he's never going to be anything more than organizational depth, and I've been saying for multiple years that we need to draft a catcher, and even though I finally did, he is only 47 overall and definitely has everything stacked against him. Just for reference, my 5th round pick last year was Oliver Gore, who came in at a 78 overall, which is 40 points higher than the catcher. Out of the 3 position guys, the only player that ever has a chance to do anything is Sam Winters, which of course would be fine, but he's a left fielder and we have so many corner outfielders already. I'm only half joking about this, but maybe the Nationals would be willing to trade their number 1 overall pick in exchange for an outfielder and maybe a starting pitcher, because Ortega is absolutely ridiculous and I would do whatever I can to get him on the team. Speaking of starting pitchers, on the positive side, we got 2 of them, and both of them are extremely good, as Spencer Erdman comes in at 74 overall with a 71 walks per 9, while Michael Velasquez comes in at 74 overall with a 77 walks per 9, although his potential is 5 points lower at 88. Both of those guys are extremely pro-ready and will be welcome additions to a farm system that is already the best in baseball, but we added to it even more with our last selection, getting Adrian Francisco, who is way better than I ever expected with 78 overall. Just imagine pairing this guy up with Dewey Rippenstein. That would be absolutely insane, as he comes in with a 91 Ks per 9, which will be extremely fun. That was a classic draft in MLB The Show, as it was very strong at pitcher, but very weak everywhere else. And with a huge division lead, I simulate to September, where we are still doing pretty good. Looking at our schedule, I am not concerned about a collapse, so I'm just gonna simulate as far as I can until we make the playoffs, as in the middle of the month, we are still winning series, so I think we already won the division. Sure enough, the Pickles finished 94-68, winning their division with a 1st round bye, and just breaking down the numbers, there wasn't a true superstar on offense, but overall, our offense was pretty deep, and we had a lot of guys step up and play their best baseball to help us get here. If I had to give out an offensive MVP though, it would be Heston Kjerstad, as he was consistently fantastic throughout the season, and also gained a massive boost to his contact versus right, which is a huge deal. Of course, there is also MJ Melendez, who is 2nd on the team in RBIs and 1st in home runs, and ever since he got here, he's been a pretty consistent offensive player, and he's another guy who has really improved. Aside from those 2 guys, the young outfielders Oliver Gore, Diego Martinez, and Tommy Pickle all played a key role in our success, and I'm so excited to see what they can do moving forward. Tommy Pickle also held on to win Rookie of the Year over Vern Bradley, which does get us an extra draft pick, but unfortunately, Dewey Rippenstein came up short for Reliever of the Year. Going into our pitching, this was an incredible year, even before bringing up guys like Billy Bobson and Pablo Ramón Sanchez, as Quinn Priester locked down another year as our ace, also getting a potential boost up to B. However, our most dominant arm this year was Chris Flexen, who finished with a 2.79 ERA, which is simply ridiculous, as he is 33 years old and still developing at a very fast rate, so this contract extension looks like highway robbery. On top of that, I'm also excited to see what Billy Bobson can do next season, but also in this year's playoffs, as I will definitely be making him a starter, as he improved so much this year and put up really good numbers. It was a very successful year for the Pickles, as they had 280 overalls coming into the year and now have 5, but now I'm curious who they're facing in their first playoff series ever. It is Minnesota! This is a pretty deep team that also traded for Lawrence Butler, so I feel like they're going to be a very tough squad to take down, but I'm confident in our young team, although maybe I shouldn't be. We just gave up a run, and then Lawrence Butler scored 2 more, as Quinn Priester is getting destroyed, and it's Lawrence Butler again. All we can do is keep simming forward, but there's a homer from Rocchio, so we are somehow still in this game, although the Twins score another run, but here's MJ Melendez looking to rally, and with a full count, he makes contact. It's not gonna drop. Just like that, the Twins take game number 1, so it is time for the Pickles to step up, and that is the way to do it. They score 2 runs, and Rocchio homers again, so we are well on our way to evening the series, but that's an error at second base that prevents a double play. The inning should be over, but instead it's only a 1-run game, and just like that, Minnesota takes the lead. I'm gonna be so angry if we lose this game, as we're still trailing by a run, so we need a miracle, and that is not it. The Pickles are in shock in the dugout, as they are now just 1 game away from being eliminated, and promising rookie pitcher Billy Bobson is their last chance. There is no excuse for losing that last game, and unfortunately Bobson is not off to a good start, but he would recover for the next 5 innings, at least until number 6. Getting shut out in an elimination game is so embarrassing, as we strand runners at the corners and cannot get anything going. We are running out of chances, as the Twins just scored 3 runs in the 8th, and it is over. In their first playoff series ever, the Portland Pickles have been swept, and that is a heartbreaking moment this young team will definitely remember for a long time. However, the silver lining is no one expected them to be here, as they finally built an identity of reclamation projects and draft picks that got them here in the first place, so it's pretty fair to say that they are only getting started. We could really use some free agents to get us to the next level, but unfortunately, ownership would not give me the money, so we're basically running back the same team aside from Garret Whitlock. You might be thinking that $4.7 million a year is a little high for a reliever, but I have a plan for Whitlock, who has a very good walks per 9 and good enough stamina to pitch for several innings. That means he's our long reliever, but if any of our starters struggle throughout the year, he could easily step in and take over. We also have a lot of starting pitchers in the organization ready to come up, like Armando Fernandez, and 2 guys we drafted last year in Spencer Erdman and Michael Velazquez. That being said, I am not worried about the rotation, especially considering that Billy Bobson and Pablo Ramón Sanchez will both get a full year. I spent a lot of time looking for new additions to our lineup in free agency in the Rule 5 draft, but I just didn't see anything that we could afford, and since we're going all in for a World Series, I am finally calling up Michael Papi. We are banking on him being a good player right out the gate, because while I trust the first 5 guys in our lineup, along with Reggie Crawford, Jonathan Aranda has been pretty inconsistent, and Brian Rocchio is just not the best offensive player. Also, I realized that Reggie Crawford has always had a very good arm, which is kind of being wasted at first base, so I moved him over to third, and we're gonna see how he does there, but if he and pretty much any of our other infielders do not perform, there's a slew of prospects waiting for their chance, such as Takeshi Nakamura, who was our first round pick in season 2. I'd also really like to bring up Carlos Lopez, who was our 4th round pick in that famous season 3 draft, as he's a great shortstop with power, but still needs to improve his contact. Then it's kind of the opposite for Maddux Charles, who can play every single position, so he also might be coming up this year, although his power needs a lot more work. Then finally, our final prospective call-up is Adrian Francisco, who was the 6th round pick in last year's draft, but he is already 78 overall, which is the same as Dewey Rippenstein. Opening day is against the Phillies, and we are leading 3-2 as Michael Papi nearly grounds into a double play, but that error is going to bail him out. That puts 2 runners in scoring position, and there is a sacrifice fly as we extend our lead, but in the next inning, the Phillies would score again. It is all going to come down to reliever of the year finalist Dewey Rippenstein, but thankfully he led the American League in saves. Philly is down to their final out, where it's 2-2 to Zach Geloff, and he chases outside. That's a W for the Pickles. They squeeze out another opening day win, and now they're looking to win their first series of the year, and they do exactly that. This was a 7-1 victory where Michael Papi hit his first major league home run, and now we're going for the series sweep, and there it is. That would spark a 7-1 start to the year, and if the season ended right now, I think Heston Kjerstad would be the American League MVP. He is playing out of his mind. And because we're in season 5, I won't be looking as in-depth at scouting, as I feel like we've already built a very strong core. We are rolling, but now we're down 1 against the Cubs, and Michael Papi drives this into left center, but it will not get down. This could be our first series loss of the year, as we still trail in the top of the 9th, but there are runners at the corners for Tommy Pickle, who so far is enjoying a very nice season. He has a chance to at least tie this game, and a sacrifice fly will get that done, so this series will come down to extra innings where Diego Martinez starts us off with a no-doubter. We are showing Chicago that we live in extra innings, as we have been here plenty of times, and Portland still has not lost a series. In that victory, Diego Martinez scored 4 out of our 6 runs, and near the end of the month, I'm surprised that Portland's the only team in the division with a winning record. It has been clear since last season that they are the team to beat right now, and also the team to beat for the foreseeable future, as looking at the stats, their young core of Oliver Gore, Tommy Pickle, and Diego Martinez are carrying. Obviously, it's early, so you can't take the stats too seriously, but so far it has been another good year for the rotation rotation, but it could be even better if Pablo Ramón Sanchez can step up. I think the big concern with him is his walks per 9 is only 54, which is definitely low, and I do believe he can turn things around, but if he doesn't, I am keeping my eye on Armando Fernandez, whose 71 walks per 9 is one of the best in the farm system, and early on, his stats are ridiculous. Ramón Sanchez was on the mound for this game against the Pirates, which we just tied in the 9th, and he only gave up 3 runs, so it'd be great if we could take advantage as Reggie Crawford drives this into left center field, going back, but it's not far enough. We were feet away from a 3-run shot, but Rocchio takes the lead, so it is now 4-3, and we get 2 runners in scoring position, and with 2 outs, Cameron is gonna drive in another one. We came from behind in the 9th, and Rippenstein delivers the final strike to earn the Pickles another victory. All the experts said we needed to spend in free agency, but we're doing just fine without it, as we go into a series against the Astros with an 11-game division lead. We are looking to extend that as this game is tied, as Tommy Pickle steals 2 bases before a sac fly sends him home. However, this will be a tough save for Dewey Rippenstein as he gives up a single and make that 2, so he desperately needs a double play or something to give us this win. However, after a flyout, he needs 1 more out, and there it is. That was a beautiful fastball that gives the Pickles another victory. They are on fire. That was just another game where we found a way to win as Brian Rocchio hit a home run, and it seems Michael Poppy is heating up. As a rookie, he is actually leading our team in home runs and has a 935 OPS, so even though it took a bit longer for him to get called up, the Pickles have finally got themselves a brand new Big Poppy. Another young guy playing well is Oliver Gore, who has not gotten a lot of screen time this season, but it turns out he is raking and also drastically improving. We already have an elite outfield, but if our guys continue developing like this, it is gonna be game over, as I have not even mentioned Diego Martinez, who's leading our team with 37 RBIs. However, maybe our biggest surprise of the season has been Brian Rocchio, who is our everyday shortstop, but is also putting up great offensive numbers for seemingly the first time ever. He is well on pace for a career year, which would be a huge deal for the Pickles, as he was one of our team's biggest concerns coming into the year, along with Jonathan Aranda, who is also performing. Something is clearly in the water in Portland, as the Pickles are now looking to win another division series, and they're off to a great start against Texas. Jordan Groshans drove in a late run to extend our lead, so now we just need 1 more victory, and there it is. We are the best team in baseball right now at 41-11, and before the season, I mentioned that I wanted to call some players up, but looking at our lineup, if it ain't broke, do not fix it. The same thing can also be said for our rotation, as Pablo Ramón Sanchez is still struggling just a little bit, but not bad enough to be sent down. I might just throw him in the bullpen and see if he gets better. If he doesn't though, we have 3 options on the best pitching staff in AA to choose from, and they are all very good and just waiting on their chance to get called up. However, the one move I want to make is trading away Tristan Gray, which is not going to gain us very much, but the reason for this move is there's a shortstop that I want to call up, and it's not Carlos Lopez, it's actually Maddux Charles. He is a versatile defender whose contact and plate skills are already pro-ready, and on top of that, he is playing great baseball at AAA, so I cannot leave him down any longer. He is coming up to the show, and we are throwing him straight into the lineup against lefties just to see what he can do. In our next series, we are being tested against the World Series champion Detroit Tigers, so this could very well be a playoff preview, as Poppins scores 2 runs and Maddux Charles walks. The new guy gets on base, but now he's stealing second and is thrown out as he gets a little too confident. We are still tied up going into the 9th inning, and here is Brian Rocchio, who has been on fire all season long, and he comes through again, driving a double into left. That puts the go-ahead run on second base, and then Pickle walks, so this is a prime time for Martinez, which we waste away. That means Detroit can now walk it off, but in true Pickle standards, we are going to extra innings, and what on earth is Martinez doing? He just gave up. I am not sure what happened there, but it may cost us the game, as MJ Melendez could be the final out of the inning, but not so fast. That is a line drive shot into right field, and Mr. Clutch does it again. I've lost track of how many times he's done that, as it feels like without fail, he delivers every time we're in a jam, and now Dewey's trying to close it. After coming up short, he is trying to win reliever of the year, and he might just do it, as he gets another save, and we sweep the Tigers. Sweeping the World Series champs is certainly a confidence booster, as we are 61-22 at the start of July, and as far as the stats go, Heston Kjerstad has overtaken Diego Martinez as the best hitter on the team. His OPS is currently 924, and I still don't understand why the Orioles let him go, but in the past 3 seasons, he has revived his career in Portland, which has been very fun to watch. Then after him, there is now Michael Poppy with a 916 OPS, and he is the definite Rookie of the Year favorite, as he is now up to B potential and 80 overall. This offense is simply incredibly well balanced, and I'm very excited to see what's to come, as you have to scroll a bit to see Diego Martinez, whose OPS is still 837. Then, looking at the rotation, I am shocked to see that Billy Bobson, in his first full year as a starter, is now our best pitcher, putting up Cy Young level numbers. He is already up to 78 overall and might overtake Quinn Priester in time for the playoffs. But to be fair, he is having another great season along with Chris Flexen. Billy Bobson has been great, but the same cannot be said for Pablo Ramón Sanchez, who was recently demoted to the bullpen and has not seen much playing time ever since. I'm very curious if that was a good move, as we replaced him with Garret Whitlock, and going over to his stats, we are definitely not going back. These numbers are on par with, if not better than Billy Bobson, so I'm super excited about Garret, and because that has been such a success, I am now inspired to make another move. Charles Valdez has C potential, and he's been mediocre at best, putting up pretty pedestrian numbers, and while any of our 3 AA phenoms would be perfect to replace him, I gotta go with the seniority, as Armando Fernandez was drafted 2 years ago, and he has 99 potential, so he is getting the call-up. That is another big move for the Pickles, and now our rotation is looking like this, as we continue to move forward to the MLB draft. Aside from a literal demigod at right field, I feel like this draft class leaves a lot to be desired. As for the second season in a row, we did not get a single discovery position guy, which certainly hurts. My favorite target at number 25 was Lee Snow, who is another starting pitcher, but has great walks per 9. However, he did not last, so we're going in pretty blind. This late in the rebuild, I have not really been focusing on scouting, so I actually think my best move is to take this closing pitcher, George Castilla, who seems to be as much of a sure thing as we're gonna get. We are pulling the trigger completely blind. Also, we have another first round pick because Tommy Pickle won Rookie of the Year, but of course, it's the same issue as last time where I don't know who to draft, although this time it's even worse. After considering all my options, I want to take a position player, so I am taking this catcher who is one of the only draftable position players on my board, and I feel like that's a massive reach. It feels like our Pickles have been sucked dry of luck ever since that 3rd draft class, as our discovery scouts have come up empty and we're left with some absolute junk. One of our discovery pitchers just went off the board, so I think that's the cue to draft Jimmy Bulger, and in round 4, we're taking a swing on a high potential first baseman. However, I might have made a huge mistake because Muhammad Ali was on the board and I passed him up, watching him go to Seattle. We're going to be kicking ourselves for a long time, and I don't want to take another starter, but I guess I will with Thad Para. And with our final pick, there is absolutely nothing. I think I'm just going to take this reliever and call it a day. He might be good. We have reached the All-Star game where we are 71-25, and I know that's not sustainable due to great starts from several players, but it's still pretty insane considering where we were just a couple years ago. Heston Kjerstad has turned into a legitimate MVP contender with the Pickles, which I never expected when I signed him, as he is leading our team in pretty much every single category he possibly can. Right now, he is on pace for over 150 RBIs, and the next 2 closest players are at 58, and that is Michael Papi and Diego Martinez. It was a tough start to the year for MJ Melendez, but it's good to see that the power is still there, and he's slowly turning things around. But right now, Oliver Gore is hitting .313 and competing for the batting title. It has been a very successful year for the Pickles, but one guy who deserves a ton of props is Brayan Rocchio, who I pretty much just signed for his defense and B potential upside, but he has turned himself into a legitimate offensive threat, hitting nearly 300 with an 867 OPS. Then in the rotation, we just called up Armando Fernandez, so I don't want to make any snap judgments, but so far so good. And of course, Quinn Priester and Billy Bobson are still doing their thing. Garret Whitlock also recently became a starter, and he is 7-0, while Dewey Rippenstein is playing like one of the best closers in baseball, making another All-Star game. He finishes right behind Emmanuel Clase in votes and is also joined by his teammate Kyle Nelson, along with MJ Melendez at catcher, Diego Martinez at left field, and Heston Kjerstad at right field. Having 2 All-Stars in the bullpen is certainly a big deal, but one of our best arms is not even at the show yet, and that is Adrian Francisco, who's the same overall as Rippenstein and is still at AA. We are getting aggressive, trying to win a World Series this year, so I am calling him up, and I am sending down Pablo Ramón Sanchez, who simply is not ready yet. I think he's our biggest trade piece if we want to make a move at the deadline, but there's kind of an issue with that. Going through the teams that are rebuilding, it is very difficult to find something that we actually need, as right now I think our only needs on the team are backup catcher and maybe an upgrade at second base. I think Pablo would be a great return for somebody like Zach Neto, who has 1 year left on his deal, but at the same time, I am not 100% sold. The player I actually want is Jacob Wilson, who would form an amazing infield tandem with Brayan Rocchio, but the one problem is he is in our division, and there's no way the Athletics are going to want to do that. For now, we are holding off on a trade, moving forward to the deadline, but just for good measure, I'm checking the trade block one more time, and I see Dalton Rushing. Are we going to do this this again. I traded for him in last year's Pickles franchise, and he ended up being a pretty good player for us, and of course, he would also really fit this team. Just because I'm curious, I'm gonna see what they want for him, and that is so easy. I am pulling the trigger every single time. Giving up a solid infield prospect for a player like Rushing is so worth it, as he is not the best catcher in the league, but certainly a backup that can develop into something more. At the start of August, we have a 21-game division lead, so I think it's time to view our draft picks, and if I'm taking a closer in round 1, you know things are bad. As far as talent goes, this class was one of the worst I've ever seen, and I cannot make miracles, so I'm just hoping for the best. We jump into it, and that's actually better than I expected. Whenever you don't know what to pick, just select a closer, because it turns out they're usually pretty good, and George Castilla is no exception, coming in at 71 overall right out the gate. Then after him, I took a catcher who's actually pretty okay, as Jermaine Vogelsong may only be 84 potential, but with this contact rating, I think he's gonna play well enough for that to go up. Then of course, in round 3, we selected a project outfielder in Grady Jenkins, and he is not gonna be ready for a very long time, with the same going for Brian Molina. These two moves, along with taking Thad Parra, were all about taking high upside players for the future, but our 4th selection, Jimmy Bolger, is actually pretty good. Obviously, we have a very crowded rotation, so he might just be a trade piece, but there's always a chance to develop with a walks per 9 like that. With a massive division lead, there is not much left to do here, so we are simulating to the end of the season and hoping for the best. Entering September though, Heston Kjerstad is leading the league in MVP, and it looks like he might win it, but looking at his competition, this is actually a very funny trio. Unfortunately though, Dewey Rippenstein is probably not catching Emmanuel Clase, but Michael Poppy is still the Rookie of the Year favorite and will probably win it. Portland finished with a 114-48 record, ending the year on a 9-game win streak, which is absolutely absurd. Their division was also a lot less competitive this season, which certainly helped, but I never would have guessed that in this rebuild, Heston Kjerstad would be the guy to become MVP. The season that he had was absolutely insane, with 125 RBIs and 38 home runs, but he is not the only surprise, as Quinn Priester, who was like 76 overall when we first signed him, was a Cy Young finalist, putting up the best ERA of his career. Then to top it all off, Dewey Rippenstein did indeed win Reliever of the Year, with 58 saves and 84 strikeouts, beating out Emmanuel Clase, who fell off a cliff. Everything about this season just worked, and unlike last year, I truly believe we can win the World Series. Obviously, our offense was led by Heston Kjerstad, who was an unstoppable force the entire season, but Diego Martinez and Michael Poppy were also very close to 100 RBIs, and guys like Brian Rocchio and Jonathan Aranda enjoyed the best seasons of their career. Last year we lost in the ALDS, but now we're taking on Texas, and there's no doubt they're a very talented team, but we beat them several times in the regular season. We are facing Tarik Skubal, and I'm a little concerned about Quinn Priester, as he had a meltdown in last year's playoffs, but so far he is holding it together pretty well. Right as I say that though, he gives up the lead, so we have to break through Tarik the Freak, and that's easier said than done. This is the best chance we've had all game long, but with 2 on, Jordan Groshans completely missed, and Oliver Gore cannot get this to drop. I'm a little scared, as we're relying on our bullpen the rest of the way, but Rocchio just went deep. Brian Rocchio comes through in the clutch as we beat Texas. It definitely took some discipline, but we hung in there until the end, hitting a home run in the 8th inning, but Billy Bobson gives up the first runs of Game 2. This is a familiar situation, as the bases are loaded, but their pitcher makes a great play, and there's a chance that might have just cost us the game. We need 2 9th inning runs if we want a chance, and Groshans hits into another double play, so the Rangers have rallied back to tie the series. Our offense has been non-existent aside from Brian Rocchio, who has definitely been our MVP, and he strikes again. Our offense finally did something, as there's a homer from Tommy Pickle, as apparently we got our new shipment of torpedo bats, so we're just a win away from advancing, and we start out strong. That is an RBI double off of Tarik Skubal, and Brian Rocchio hits another home run. This guy is cracked. Also, huge shout out to Armando Fernandez, the rookie, for holding it down against Skubal as we score again, and unless Texas does something crazy, we are advancing, as there are 2 more runs, and the Portland Pickles are advancing to the ALCS. Let's go. Armando Fernandez has 99 potential, and I think that was his coming out party, as he throws a complete game, only giving up 1 run, and now we're taking on the Red Sox. At the deadline, they traded for former Athletic Mason Miller, who we are far too used to facing, but honestly, this team is not as good as I expected, so I'm excited for the series. It is time to get honest and admit that Brian Rocchio carried us to the next round, but our offense is clearly trying to redeem itself. It is 4-2 in the 7th, but they just tied it up, so the first game of the series is going to extras. Fortunately, we did not give up a run, but the MVP walks it off, and that is a huge huge win for the Pickles. Now in game 2, we have a pitcher's duel which is finally ended by a solo home run in the 5th, so now we're looking for an answer and Jonathan Aranda delivers. I would not be surprised if those were the last runs of the game, as Rippenstein looks to close it out and there's a swing and a miss. Thanks to a timely home run, the Pickles extend their lead, and now I'm gonna sim the next 2 games and hope we win one of them. There we go. Now we can bust out the brooms as Garret Whitlock's going against his former team and there's 2 home runs. We take an early lead, but Boston cuts right into it, and now we have pulled Whitlock as the game is tied. We have lost our momentum, but we get some back as the bases are loaded for Martinez. There's a great chance that a sweep is on the line, and there's no way. He makes great contact into right center field, sending this back, and get out the rye bread and the mustard. It is grand salami time in game 4 of the ALCS. What a moment for Martinez and the entire Pickles team, and they secure a series sweep to move on to the World Series. I cannot believe we're here in season number 5, and simming forward, we're taking on Arizona. Looking at their roster, they still have Marte and the 2 Corbins, but I still feel like this is a very winnable series. We are once again trusting Quinn Priester to not let us down, and so far so good, where this game is scoreless at least until the 3rd inning where we score twice. It seems that will make the difference as Big Poppy goes deep, followed by Tommy Pickle in the 7th. This one's over. I guess you could say that one was no big deal for the Pickles, and we're hoping for very similar results in game 3 as we're going up against a retirement home version of Corbin Burns. However, we're already down 1-0, never mind. Tommy Pickle has been showing off the power in this series, and there's a 2-run bomb from Martinez. We could debate through the entire playoffs who the real MVP is, but my vote is for the entire bullpen as they have been so clutch. We have a 2-0 series lead, so now I'm taking a risk, simming the next 2 games in hopes that we can win one of them. We sim the first, which we lose, so they have a chance to tie the series, but there we go. This could be our final game of the season, so we're calling on the guy who helped us get here, Quinn Priester. He has been pretty good throughout the playoffs, so I'm excited to see if he can earn us the final win, but unfortunately there are 2 home runs in the 2nd. Now we need to answer, and immediately we do with 2 runs and make it 3. Our offense started the playoffs on a shaky note, but they have really recovered, and they now have a 2-0 lead, which Arizona cuts into, but Tommy Pickle goes yard. We are 3 outs away from winning the World Series, and thankfully we have the best closer in the league. Randy Arozarena is down to his final strike, but there's a single, and now with Corbin Carroll up, I'm a little nervous. He could be the game's tying run, but the pitch comes, he does not swing. 5 years after forming, the Portland Pickles win their first World Series in franchise history, and I have to say, the journey to get here was unbelievable. From great draft classes to reclamation projects and stingy ownership, it feels really good to be on top of the MLB, and if enough people like, I might come back to this for a 10 or even 20 year rebuild, who knows.